Have you ever noticed how some people seem to naturally invite success, wealth, and abundance into their lives, while others continue to struggle no matter how hard they try? It can be confusing and discouraging, especially when effort alone doesn't seem to explain the difference. What if the real key isn't about luck, connections, or how many hours you work, but something much deeper? Today, we're exploring a powerful idea about manifestation and personal transformation. One that goes beyond vision boards, affirmations, or simple positive thinking. It's about identity shifting, and understanding it may help you create meaningful change in your life. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from. It's always inspiring to see this community come together from so many different places. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Let's talk about something many people experience. You set a goal, you work hard. You follow the advice you're given. Yet the results just don't seem to show up the way you hoped. Maybe you make some progress, but it still feels like you're pushing uphill, and the moment you stop, things slip back to where they were. It's easy to start questioning yourself, your discipline, intelligence, or even your worth. But here's a different perspective. It may not be about effort alone. It may be about identity. The version of you trying to create success may not yet match the version of you who can naturally sustain it. Until that gap is bridged, it's common to experience repeating cycles of frustration. This isn't just abstract theory. Many people, like Carl Jung, have spoken about experiencing profound inner shifts that changed the trajectory of their lives. He didn't transform his situation simply by working harder or discovering a single strategy. He changed who he believed himself to be. What we're really talking about isn't faking it until you make it, but understanding the deeper psychological and emotional mechanics behind lasting change. When your current reality doesn't reflect your potential, there's usually a reason rooted in identity, the version of you you're operating from right now. The real breakthrough comes not from forcing different results, but from becoming the kind of person those results naturally belong to. So the question becomes, who do you need to grow into? And how do you gently transition from where you are now to a version of yourself who lives that reality more naturally? This is where many people get stuck, trying to create a completely new life using the same internal patterns and identity they've always had. Shifting identity is the deeper work, and that's what we're diving into next. The transformation begins with gently recalibrating how you see yourself. And there's a powerful framework that can make this deeply personal process feel tangible and real. Picture this. You take a simple sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle, creating two clear columns. Then on the right side, divide it horizontally into 3 sections. It's not complicated or time-consuming. It's simple, elegant, and surprisingly effective. In the bottom right section, you'll write 5 to 7 meaningful goals and dreams. Not just any goals, but the things the future version of you would already have created in their life. Maybe it's a certain level of financial stability. Maybe it's vibrant health and energy. Perhaps it's a thriving business, a fulfilling relationship, or a deeper sense of spiritual connection. These aren't just wishes. They're coordinates, guiding you toward the person you're becoming. Now comes the part where true clarity begins, and this is where many personal development teachings often miss the mark. On the left side of the paper, it's time to honestly look at who you're being right now, not the version you present online, not who you hope others see, but the real, everyday version of you, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. What thought patterns do you repeat? What feelings tend to show up most often? What do your daily habits truly look like? Carl Jung noticed his own patterns when he did this. He saw constant stress and worry. He noticed himself overworking to exhaustion, stuck in indecision, comparing himself to others, rarely feeling calm or present, always feeling behind, convinced he didn't have time for what mattered. These weren't random struggles. They were familiar behaviors his current identity kept replaying, believing they were helping, when in truth, they were quietly holding him back. If this resonates with you and you'd like to keep exploring these ideas together, I'd love for you to join the community. I'm here to share insights designed to genuinely support your growth. Here's the hidden truth many people never realize. Sometimes the very behaviors we believe are helping us succeed, constant worrying, endless pushing, self-comparison, are actually the invisible barriers keeping us stuck. They belong to an old identity, and they can't create the future you're reaching for. Recognizing these patterns is powerful, but it's only the beginning. The real transformation begins when you clarify who you're growing into and learn how to embody that identity starting now. If this is connecting with you, write in the comments, "I see my patterns clearly." Because what comes next is about discovering how to gently shift from the person you've been into the person you're becoming. Let me share a moment that brought all of this into sharp focus. Jung was in the middle of a major marketing campaign, one he poured his heart, expertise, and resources into. He anticipated 250 enrollments, and what happened next changed everything. When the numbers finally came in, only 30 people had signed up. It was deeply disappointing, and the timing couldn't have felt worse. It was Christmas. His living room was beautifully decorated, his family was gathering, music and laughter filled the house. Yet Jung couldn't fully be there. His mind kept racing, replaying what went wrong, searching for mistakes, sinking into familiar worry and self-criticism. Then something shifted. He asked himself one gentle but life-changing question. If I had $10 million in my bank account right now, how would the version of me with that level of certainty respond to this moment? The answer came instantly. That version of him wouldn't be obsessing over the campaign. He would be playing with his son. He would be appreciating the decorations his wife had lovingly put up. He would be singing Christmas songs, laughing, being present with the people who mattered most. Because that version of himself knew, deeply and calmly, that one setback didn't define anything. It was just a small part of a much greater journey. In that realization, Jung discovered something profound. The next step wasn't about rushing to fix the marketing campaign. It wasn't about obsessing over strategy. The real path forward was becoming that $10 million version of himself right now, in that very moment. This wasn't a new concept for him. He had lived this truth before. During his recovery from addiction, he saw something incredibly powerful. When he thought like an addict, acted like an addict, and made decisions from that identity, the result was always more addiction. But when he entered the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and began thinking, acting, and living like a sober person, something remarkable happened. With time and consistency, he didn't just try to be sober. He became sober. The behavior led the identity. The identity created the reality. This is the quiet mechanism behind all meaningful change. If you want to become wealthy, fulfilled, healthy, peaceful, you don't wait until life gives you those outcomes before you allow yourself to think, feel, and live like that person. You begin aligning with that identity now, not by pretending, not by forcing, but by gradually embracing the mindset, emotional state, and daily decisions that version of you naturally lives from. Our outer world eventually mirrors who we believe we are. Sitting in that living room on Christmas, Jung made a conscious choice. He chose to stop identifying with the version of himself that felt broke, stressed, and desperate, and instead aligned with the version who already knew peace, abundance, and stability. From that quiet shift came a completely different experience, and in time, completely different results. If this resonates with you, type in the comments, "I choose my new identity." Because what comes next is about sustaining this shift, so it becomes a real, lasting transformation, not just a temporary burst of motivation. Here, what truly makes this approach so powerful. It isn't just a modern trend or some abstract spiritual idea. Versions of this principle have appeared in human wisdom for thousands of years. You can find echoes of it in Rosicrucian writings, in ancient Hermetic philosophy, and in many early spiritual traditions. Even the 33-degree structure within Masonic rituals was built around guiding individuals through progressive stages of inner growth and personal transformation. These weren't random practices. They were intentional systems designed to reshape a person at the level of identity. And what's even more compelling is how closely this aligns with modern science. Neuroscience and behavioral psychology now show that when you consistently live as the version of yourself who already embodies the results you want, your brain literally begins to reorganize through neuroplasticity. Neural pathways strengthen around new habits and thought patterns. Your beliefs begin to shift. Your nervous system gradually recalibrates to a healthier baseline. This isn't symbolic or hypothetical, it's observable and measurable. Ancient wisdom and modern research are simply describing the same process through different languages. So this is where the real work begins, the part that separates those who understand the idea from those who truly change their lives. Once you've written your goals in the bottom right quadrant of the page and honestly acknowledged your current patterns on the left side, the next step is to get very clear about something deeper. Who would you be if you had already achieved everything you desire? Not what you would own, not what you would have accomplished, but who you would become on the inside. What would your daily thoughts sound like? What emotional states would feel natural for you? What choices would you consistently make? How would you treat yourself and others? Jung realized that his future self, the version of him who already had the health, wealth, stability, and peace he wanted, would be very different from who he was at that moment. Instead of stress and worry, that version would feel calmer and more trusting. Instead of neglecting himself, he would make time for his body, his mind, and his well-being. Instead of constantly doubting and hesitating, he would act decisively. Instead of operating from scarcity, he would be generous. Instead of procrastinating, he would show up consistently and clearly. These aren't just traits. These are what Jung called the good plays, the choices and behaviors that genuinely align with the life you want to create. And here's a meaningful step many people skip. Give this future version of yourself an identity, a name. Jung called his future self $10 million Jung because it instantly reminded him of who he was choosing to step into. Naming your future self makes the identity feel real, memorable, and easier to embody in daily moments. From there, the question becomes, how do you begin living as that version of you now, before anything externally has changed? Because that's where the real transformation happens, in the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. How you navigate that space determines everything. If this resonates with you, type in the comments, I am becoming. Because what comes next is about the very real, practical ways to anchor this new identity into your everyday life, so you don't slip back into the patterns that have kept you stuck. And to show just how powerfully this works, let me share a story of one of Jung's clients who desperately wanted to grow his business. But the real breakthrough arrived in the most unexpected place, at a restaurant. This client had always tipped very carefully whenever he went out to eat, and on the surface, it made perfect sense. He hadn't yet reached the level of financial success he wanted, so he believed he needed to be cautious with every dollar. Then Jung asked him a simple, honest question. Would the version of you who has already tripled your business tip this way? Everything shifted in that moment. He immediately realized that his future self, the successful entrepreneur he was becoming, wouldn't operate from fear or tightness. He would be thoughtful, responsible, but also genuinely generous with money, with his time, and with his energy. So he made a change. He began tipping generously, not recklessly, not to impress anyone, but as an act of alignment, choosing to live from the identity of the person he was growing into. And something beautiful happened. Over time, his business did triple. Not because tipping magically changed his finances, but because that decision represented a deeper shift. He stopped living from scarcity and began living from trust, abundance, and confidence. That one internal change affected the way he showed up in conversations, business decisions, leadership, and relationships, and life responded accordingly. This is the quiet but powerful mechanism behind transformation. When you begin practicing the behaviors of your future self, you create the emotional, psychological, and energetic conditions for that future to unfold. If something inside you feels like it clicked hearing this, if you feel a spark of recognition or possibility, show it by hitting the like button. It helps this message reach the people who may truly need it. Now think about the alternative most people are living. So many are trying to worry their way into success, compare their way into confidence, criticize themselves into excellence, and overwork their way into abundance. It's exhausting, and it rarely works. The turning point comes when you clearly see these bad plays for what they are, patterns that will never produce the life you truly want. And then you consciously choose to stop repeating them. Instead, you begin choosing the good plays, the thoughts, behaviors, and emotional states that are genuinely aligned with your desired future. Imagine living with a sense of calm trust instead of constant stress. Imagine truly making time to care for yourself, moving your body, resting your mind, creating space in your schedule, rather than endlessly pushing. Imagine being decisive and confident, rather than stuck in hesitation. Imagine generosity replacing fear, consistency replacing procrastination, clarity replacing chaos. These are not rewards you wait to enjoy after success happens. These are the very qualities that help create success. And when you practice them consistently, patiently, allowing yourself time to grow into this new identity, results begin to follow. Whether your goal is sobriety, health, fulfillment, stronger relationships, business growth, or financial abundance, this principle holds true across every area of life. The key is patience and a steady commitment to your new identity, even before the outside world reflects it, even when your bank account hasn't changed yet, even when circumstances still look the same. If you feel ready to step into that commitment, type in the comments, "New identity activated." Because what comes next is about tying everything together, showing you how to sustain this transformation long-term, even when life challenges you, and even when old patterns try to pull you back. If you've stayed with me this far, I already know something important about you. You're not here by accident. You're someone who's genuinely ready for real, lasting change, and who understands that transformation is deeper than quick fixes or temporary motivation. You're someone who's willing to look honestly at yourself, to recognize the patterns that no longer serve you, and to step courageously into a new way of being. That takes real strength and commitment, and I truly honor that. I see you. If this message resonated with you, if something quietly shifted inside you while listening, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I share content like this regularly because I genuinely believe these insights can support real, meaningful change, and I'd love for you to be part of this journey moving forward. And remember, your transformation doesn't stop here. There is so much more to explore together. If you feel called, leave a comment saying, "This message was meant for me." It lets me know you were here and that this reached you at the right time. I read every single comment, and there is something powerful about expressing your intention out loud. It helps make the shift feel real. If you found value in what we talked about today, go ahead and like the video as well. It helps this message reach others who may be ready to stop repeating old patterns and begin living from their future self. There's another video right here that goes even deeper into how to maintain this identity shift when life gets tough. When doubts appear, emotions resurface, or old habits try to pull you back. Click it, continue with me, and let's keep building this momentum together so this transformation truly lasts.